teaches me listen, and boy does she sing. Her voice swings like a hummingbird, flies like a shooting.
Welcome to the Girl Awakening podcast. I'm Jo Hendy from the Sacred Sister Project.
I'm Amanda Parker from Mayella Organics.
Together each week we will share a vulnerable, open and honest podcast about the awakening process in all of its sacredness. Good morning, listeners. Welcome to episode 8 of our Girl Awakening podcast. Hello, Amanda.
Morning, Jo. And morning, Kate.
We have the lovely Kate Reardon. I'm so excited. You can probably hear it in my voice. Just a little on Kate. First, thank you for coming in, Kate. I feel so honoured to have you. Yeah,
I'm so happy to be here.
Yay!
We managed the daylight saving time coordinated.
Yes, I know.
We did.
I know.
We did.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read a little bit on Kate. Kate gives those in need of a healing guidance, the inspiration and tools for growth so they can achieve the unthinkable and conquer the impossible. Kate is a qualified practitioner of naturopathy and nutritional medicine, an intuitive metaphysical healer, best-selling author, keynote speaker, facilitator, yoga teacher, devoted mama and host of the ever-popular Lean In podcast, which is an amazing podcast. Yes. I've listened to it, yes. Renowned for her holistic approach to healing, Kate pollinates multiple healing practices using naturopathy and nutrition to work on a core cellular level while incorporating her metaphysical channeling to address the emotional and spiritual. So exciting.
It's such a weird feeling
To
to
hear
have
that.
your bio read in front of you. I'm like, kind of, yeah, I guess I do all of that.
You absolutely do all of that. And you're a mum, which is huge in itself. I mean, just that alone, 3 beautiful young girls.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's that all going?
It's a word that I've been using. I don't know if I made it up. I have to actually check. But I've been saying Brutiful, which is a mixture of brutal and beautiful.
Yes.
And it's that amalgamation of
Both.
that.
Yeah.
So when people are like, how are you going? I'm like, I'm everything.
Yes.
And all of it before breakfast.
Yes.
So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that.
Resonates.
Yeah. And honest.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
God, life's fucking tricky.
And
And, you know, add little kids and stuff in there as well as trying to, you know, go free.
just survive.
Yeah, just survive. Just survive.
Just do the laundry.
Yes.
The day-to-day basics.
It is, but it's a lot like that. The domestic load and the mother load that we carry is so fucking heavy. Am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
Okay,
Fuck yes.
good.
That influence.
Yeah, totally. I thought it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's really, really heavy in our culture here in Australia.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've been a mum here because I've been living in Bali for the last 11 years. So my eldest 2 children, they were born in Australia, but I flew back to Bali when they were 4 weeks old. So my care and my postpartum and my 4th trimesters were all in a culture which nourishes mothers, nourishes children, nourishes the time in the cave, the body, the repair, the regeneration. I was around these Balinese women that like would not let me wash my hair. They wouldn't let me clean the house at all. It was just like, you've done everything and now you need to rest. And I was really honoured in that. And my 3rd baby was born in Australia, which was an amazing experience as well. And then I was like, oh my God, I literally have to do all this stuff myself. And it's heavy.
It's hardcore, isn't it? When you
is.
just listening to really listening to what you've just said.
Yeah.
It's like nurture is like completely different in Bali than in Australia, or maybe in other cultures as well.
All Eastern cultures that I've lived in and been a part of lead the way in terms of matriessence and becoming a mother and that rite of passage. I think we have a long way to go here to really honour what a mother goes through first and foremost.
Yeah.
And respect and just really celebrate. Thank you. I was looking for this word. Celebrate what it is to be a mother.
The sacredness is just missing here, isn't it?
It is.
Like
It really, really is. Yeah.
It's funny because I teach grade 6 girls about puberty, and I've, been looking deeper into it, the whole womb aspect, and how, the egg travels down the, fallopian tubes and all this, and how it's a magical thing that's happening inside of us.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not. It's just you're getting your, I don't want to say rags,
Yeah.
but, it's like it's been turned into this pain in the bum thing that we get once a month. And I'm trying to teach these girls, no, this is a very sacred thing that's happening to you, and it's magical what's happening inside of our bodies, and we should be loving it. And
that's
and
right.
it's bizarre. They
Just lost. And what I'm honestly hearing is like the celebration, but also that whole phrase, it takes a village.
Yes.
And just that embracing of, celebrating a woman bringing a child into being.
Yeah.
And everybody supporting
the
mother and child.
Yeah.
Because I also heard that is that true with in Bali, from my experience, that you don't put the child down for 40 days or something like
3
that?
months.
3 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And then they do a ceremony at 3 months, because it's 3 months for the child's soul to really come in. Those first 3 months, in their belief, they're going back and forward.
Wow.
And so
I have read that. Yes, I've read that. Yes.
Yeah. So I did the 3 month ceremonies with both of my eldest children, and it was the most beautiful, moving, honouring. All the village comes, the high priest sets up, and they connect the child to the earth to the sky, and the sky back to the baby. And they call in all the ancestors to be there. And they light their way, they light their path, and it's just this extraordinary ritual and ceremony of, you made it, you're here, and we love you. And it was so beautiful, and everyone, all these Balinese people were coming up to me and patting my womb, and even the women were like touching my breasts and saying, thank you for bringing this child in. I was like, oh my God. It was hard for me to receive, to be honest, because I was like, am I like, is this okay for me to feel this much love in my body?
Yeah.
And it was beautiful.
Oh my God.
We have a lot to learn.
Oh, so much to learn. And that could be a whole other podcast.
Totally.
Because one of the biggest things
beautiful.
that young mum, any mum experiences these days, like the whole postpartum experience, the whole postnatal depression, is often this related to this isolation or this load that you've been talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Like the thing that they will talk about with their struggles is not having to talk to, not anyone to help, feeling like there's so much to do, feeling like they're doing it wrong, not feeling the love for what they've just achieved.
Yeah, not honoured as a woman.
Imagine how much less of that there would be if we did incorporate that into our culture, or just even if, it became something that was, that would just sound so beautiful.
Well, and we are.
Yeah.
We're these extraordinary, like, to fall pregnant, give birth and raise children. I mean, what's a bigger miracle?
Yeah. I agree.
It's
agree.
like, and the fact that our bodies know how to do that and what to do, and even how badly we can treat them, and our own self-esteem and our own thoughts and things that get in the way, and still they just like bow down in reverence. And it's like, why are we not celebrating this every single day as women,
What's really important.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've got to get your active wear back on and get out there and pump your body.
Or just like force and push it into a certain shape. For who? For what? For why?
Yes.
Like, when we die, because I've been thinking about this a lot, and these end of life questions, because I've had a couple of really close people pass away recently, and what I took from that is like, what are my end of life questions? Because everyone's different, you know, and I was just like, am I going to be thinking on my deathbed, fuck, I was hot and I wore I was able to fit into a size 8 dress, like, go me. No, that's not what I'm going to be thinking about at all. I'm going to be thinking about, did I serve? Did I love? Was I kind? You know, all of those deeper things. And because death, you know, always brings us such insights and such valuable, tangible nuggets of gold if we choose to embody them and choose to listen. And that's been one of them. And I turned 40 this year as well, which was a huge thing for me. It was, I don't know why, I was like, fuck, 40 is like when you're a real adult and you're meant to have your shit together and like, holy moly. And I was so not feeling any of that. Yeah. And, but what I realized, I was like, no one has their shit together. And if we do, it's momentary and that's okay. Yeah. And I'm not forcing my body into a certain shape anymore. Yeah. Like, I am done with that old paradigm. And it is so relieving.
Liberating.
It's liberating. I was like, if this is what being an elder and getting older is all about, like, fucking bring it. Like, give me more because I am done with that old thing.
We've been having this conversation a lot lately. Yeah.
Doesn't it feel great?
It feels great.
Fantastic.
It feels good. Yeah. I turned 51 this year.
Wow.
So I literally, it's been, when you say 40, I was like, oh, take me back to 40. So wild.
But we're all, like, I remember being like this at 30
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well,
yeah.
going, oh my God, I'm so old.
Yeah.
And
it's weird. It's, you know, and 60, I'm hoping that I'll be like, yes, I've just had the best fucking 10 years.
Yes.
You know, I've just done everything I've wanted. And I think that's what, you know, comes along. And for others, it's different. We have different questions, you know, or different reasons for being.
Yes.
Well, I remember when I turned 40, I felt like I had permission to say no to whatever I wanted to say no to.
I love that.
Yeah, that was my big take from turning 40.
Yeah. Which is huge. That's such a big thing.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Massive for women, for mums, for wives, for everyone. Everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we've like literally it's
we get this, 3
Let's
hours
jump
later.
in. Perfect. So back to Girl Awakening. We're just going to hand it over to you, Kate, and you know, just if you can just share with us just all your valuable nuggets, you know, that you've been through in your lifetime from I don't know, whenever it started.
Well, I guess I was thinking about this on my drive up because normally, like, me being on my own in a car is like a holiday. And so normally I'm like
keep driving.
I know, I'm like, this is the best thing ever.
Playlist, whatever.
Put on some music or listen to a podcast. But I actually just sat in silence because I've been giving myself more space to really just be without anything. And I was thinking about the name of this podcast, which is Girl Awakening, and I felt like for me it's really how you define awakening which serves the answer. And like, I've been in, you know, the kind of spiritual wellness community for a long time, and I feel like the word awakening just gets thrown around like a volleyball. And it doesn't really resonate like in the way that we see it used on Instagram, for example.
No, absolutely.
And so to me, what awakening is, it's not like this wake up moment of like, I woke up and now everything's fucking amazing. Look at me. It's this exploration and evolving of like the lotus flower that just dies and then will rebirth, and then it dies again and then it rebirths, and it has to go through all of this mud to even see its beauty, and its beauty only comes out in moonlight, and there's all like, so my awakening is my whole entire life, you know, and there's definitely been points along that road and woven into my tapestry where I can say that was a shift and that was a trajectory change. But I don't want to say like, oh, when I was 26, I was in the jungle with the shaman and I like fully woke up because, which is like, yeah, exactly. Because like the fact that we are here in bodies and are breathing, whether we know it or not, we are awakening.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I guess where it started for me was my birth.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really, really important. Like we were talking about womb work before, and I've been immersed in kind of, you know, that realm for a long time. It's really important for all of us to go back to our origin story and know our birth and know the events around it and the circumstances, because that's our first blueprint.
Yeah.
You know, when we take our first breath, that's when our painting begins.
Yeah.
That's when our art begins, you know, this creativity. And so my birth was really traumatic. My mum is a midwife and all she wanted was a natural birth. And she actually formed a constriction ring around my neck when she was pushing, which is really rare. And she knew what it was, and because she was a midwife. And it actually looks like a bicycle tire on the skin.
Wow.
And so she couldn't push me out because she was actually choking. If she, like, as my head was coming down, the ring was around my neck. And so I was an emergency Caesar. And then, so that was very traumatic for my mum. But also, what's really interesting, that I find really interesting, is I was the first girl born on my father's side in 120 years.
Wow.
Whoa.
There was no surviving females ever. And so my dad had all brothers. My grandfather was an only child. My great-grandfather, all brothers. As far as we can go back, which is 120 years.
Wow.
So when I look at my mum's birth and our experience, and also the fact that I was the first living daughter in 120 years, I was like, I'm here to rise up the feminine.
Oh.
You know?
And the struggle, the actual struggle of the birth struggle
And
itself.
Yeah. And so I've got 3 girls, you know, it's just like, that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
And all of the moments that have kind of redirected me, I guess, have all pointed in that direction of like, rise her up. Yeah.
Wow. Oh wow.
Yeah.
So when did you come to that realization that you wanted to actually look at the birth situation with your mum? You know, like as in, what was the thing that went, oh, I need to find out what happened?
I think mum had always told me. She's always been, my mum's a nurse, so she's always been very anatomical and like into the physical body, and that's how we kind of, you know, I knew all about my birth. And then I'm the eldest of 4. My brother was also an emergency C-section, and then the other 2 were scheduled. They didn't give her the option to have a natural birth.
Right.
And so it wasn't really until I was getting ready to conceive, and before I had Ruby, my eldest, I suffered through 3 miscarriages.
Okay.
And they were really intense. Really big ones. The first one I wrote about it in my book, but it was quite, I was in a dangerous position in my body, and it just like broke my heart. And so it was through the healing process of that that I started really unpacking my generational trauma and what I was holding in my womb. And a part of that was, you know, I don't want to hurt anyone, like, you know, and so I had to really work through a lot of that generational trauma that we all have. And so that was about 12 years ago when I really started opening to that. And And what's funny is, like, my 3 girls, and when I look at the births that I had, like, they made me work so fucking hard, those kids. And now they're here, and I know their personalities, and it all makes perfectly
and they're obviously pretty
sense.
strong in themselves.
They are really strong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was just like, our bodies hold so much more than we think they do. Yeah. That we can even actually comprehend. And I've always worked in these realms for, you know, my whole career has been about this. But for me to go through it and really heal those lineages has been huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we don't give that enough I don't even want, the credit's not even the right word, but we don't give it enough respect. Yeah. We kind of brush it off. We do. It's so intrinsic in us.
It is. Yeah. Well, it's our bodies, and especially, you know, we don't give women the space to tell their birth stories for starters.
No, and they're so powerful.
And sometimes we're not ready to tell them until we've healed.
Yeah.
A certain aspect, you know, and so it's something that I feel like all women need to do, and everyone needs to explore their origin story. I think it helps you understand what you're going through so much more.
It makes so much sense just hearing you say it, and how it's just not. You know, I'm just thinking about my 2 kids, you know, both of them were quite traumatic births.
Yeah.
And, you know, it makes me sad, because I know even with Bay, who's 24 now, we kind of laugh about his birth because it was really quite traumatic, because he had a really big head. And we kind of laugh about that, but it's like, now I think about it, it's like, there's so much more going on there that needs to be. And, you know, even just who he is as a person, you know, it's like, let's pull that apart and see how that's connected, and what, you know, and what was going on for Trevor and I. Like, there's so much in there.
Oh, yeah.
That we just don't
it's
even...
multi-layered. Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So...
magic.
That's so powerful and so beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's kind of rewind a little bit.
Your birth.
Yeah.
Was the beginning of your awakening.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, I just have been on the path ever since.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like I had another life and then I read a spiritual book that changed my life. I've always been on the path, and I think it's true for everyone. When you get older and get hindsight and look back, we always know.
Yeah.
We always know.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes we either don't want to hear, or our access points are really blocked that we can't.
Yeah.
And so...
we're told we're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Told somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I feel really fortunate that I was, I guess... like, I've always had a spiritual connection, a very deep connection. I've always been able to see the spirit world. I didn't know what it was when I was little. I thought it was just all my friends that I would play with.
Yeah.
But it was just on in me. It was just always open.
Yeah.
And we all have access to that. You know, our sixth sense, the sense of knowing and intuition, wisdom, whatever you kind of want to call it, and whatever you're comfortable with, it's always just been there for me. And so I guess there's this beautiful Deepak Chopra quote, and he says, awakening isn't changing who you are, it's really like letting go of what you're not. And that's what I keep coming back to. It's like, I'm Kate, I'm always going to be Kate. Those big questions of like, who am I and what am I doing here? They're always at the forefront of my self-inquiry.
Yeah.
They're always there. But I just keep letting go of all the decaying shit that I hold on to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not young enough, my thighs are too big, I don't have the right connections. I just keep letting go of all of that shit.
It just seems so small when we're sitting in this space right now talking about what we're talking about, and you say that, I go, oh, that's just so significant.
Yeah.
Insignificant. I mean, you know, it's like, but in the moments, it can overshadow us. It can take hold of us.
Oh yeah, it takes hold of us, and it takes us down into a spiral. But that's where we also learn and grow.
Absolutely.
So, you know, the last 2 years for me has been a really intense growth period. Like I moved back from Bali to Australia during COVID. I was pregnant. There was one flight going out of Indonesia every 3 months. We didn't know whether we were going to get on the flight or not. I had no home to come to. I was birthing in like a month. I had to quarantine with 2 kids. It was so stressful. The world was shutting down. We had, because I've got a health retreat in Bali, we were booked out, you know, 8-9 months in advance. I had to cancel all of those retreats, lose a lot of money, restaff over 30 people. It was just so much. And then coming home and birthing a baby, and then it's been a lot. I had a really bad accident. Went through 2 floods down in the Byron Shire where I live. Lost 2 really close friends, and this is all in the space of 2 years. And so when I look at that in terms of awakening, I feel like it's the invitation to me and to all of us is, how can we hold it all? Right? Because I think in the wellness and spiritual world where I'm, you know, teach and share, it's kind of like we're always looking for this end goal. We're looking for inner peace, or I don't want my, you know, issues anymore. And it's like, what if we just let them be and just breathe and just be okay in the moment and let that be enough, you know? And I think also, you know, being in Bali, I had access to so many resources that helped me take care of myself. And what I mean by that is I had a nanny who looked after my children. I had someone clean my house. I had massage therapists that worked for me. I was mentored to a band of healers of all different osteopaths, acupuncturists, energetic healers, Balinese healers. I could go to any one of them at any time. And when I came home to Australia and everyone was in lockdown and I was just in this house with my 3 kids, isolated in a culture that I haven't lived in since my mid-20s, going, how do you do it here? And so that's been my inquiry.
Whole reset.
Well, just listening to what you're saying too, it's like there's no sense of community.
No. And I think we're still really bad at being vulnerable. You know, and it's like, and the tall poppy syndrome is just still
about, you took the words out of my mouth.
Alive and well. It's like,
it's sad.
We don't celebrate each other enough. We don't support each other enough, and we don't let each other see exactly what's going on. You know, and I've really, really noticed that.
That point of vulnerability is not a good position in Western society.
No, it's seen as a weakness.
And it's so sad, isn't it? Because it's such an opportunity to grow, bring people together, learn, be more in the next moment, stronger, you know, resilient, resilient is a word that gets thrown around a lot too, but you know, it's usually hard fuckery to get that word established, you know,
a lot of hard fuckery.
You
heard it here, folks. It's what it takes. I love that.
It's so crazy because it's like, this has been coming up in our space so much, this whole tall poppy, you know, putting people on pedestals, and it's coming up in a lot of people that I resonate with as well, and in different areas, and we've been talking about this a lot, you know, because that's where we take each other out, you know. It's like, we either, even having somebody on a pedestal is limiting them, you know, because it's keeping them somewhere in a box, and then it's disempowering ourselves, and there's so many layers to it. But because we've got you here, I want to kind of focus on you. And I you know, this keeps popping up in my mind, this whole lineage that, you know, you were the first girl, and we're talking about, you know, not putting people on pedestals, but there feels to be something extraordinary in that, you know, about you, your essence in its whole, you know, about who you are and what your
the fact that you managed to
comes
become
through
true as a girl.
Yeah.
you know, it's like not
that
to
contract.
not to make it significant or anything, but it kind of is.
Yes.
You know, there's something. Do you feel that? Do you sense that? Have you felt that? Or is it something that you...
I've always felt it, but I've really embraced it now.
Yeah.
Because I think that coming of age when you're around 12, 13, 14, I remember when I first started getting a lot of attraction from men.
Yeah.
You know, around that age, and you're developing as a woman, and I was like, oh, this is not a safe space.
Yeah.
My body is not a safe space. And I would try and, you know, I wasn't like out and all like, you know, I'm such an empowered woman. I was really like, I'm scared and I'm getting all of this unwanted attention and I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I have no skills and no one to kind of go to for counsel. Mm-hmm. And so I really shut down a lot of my femininity, I think. And in that, what I'm talking about is my softness, my vulnerability. Like I would never cry. You know, I was just so strong. Like you've got to be strong and you've got to be on. And, and I guess throughout that process, and coming back to that, like letting go of what you are not, it's giving myself permission to be soft and to be open. And, you know, when clients come to me, like I hear some extraordinary, really hard traumas, you know, and I just sit there and cry with them and hold their hands. And I'm like, I don't know what to say to you right now because my heart is just breaking. Yeah. And I allowed myself to do that instead of I'm the professional and they're coming to me, and you know, so it keeps showing up in different ways.
It's almost like the space that you hold is just so free. It's like, you know, it's like you're holding this expansive space. Because I've been in Kate's space. It's very expansive. I've had a session with Kate, and it was life changing for me. But that's that expansiveness that you hold. There's so much strength. You talk about vulnerability and all that, but there's so much strength in there too. So it's a beautiful balance of everything. Because
don't you think though that our strength is in our honesty?
Yes, absolutely.
And our vulnerability, you know. And when that really clicked in for me, I was like, this is how you do it. Yeah. And everything shifted. Yeah. And even the people that started to come to me shifted. So I set up Natural Instinct Wellbeing, which is our Bali retreat center, and I was one of the co-founders. There was me and my husband Pat, and at the time one of our best friends Becky, who ended up staying a couple of years and then moved back to Canada. And the three of us had no idea what we were doing. I just knew I had to be in Bali. Yeah. And I knew, I knew that I had to make this work. Yeah. Because when I went to university and became a naturopath, became a nutritionist, and I actually had a practice here on the Gold Coast in Burleigh.
Oh, amazing.
And I'd spent so many years studying and worked 3 jobs to put myself through college and was like, this is it. And the things that I wanted at the time, or what I thought I wanted, were really hilarious. Now, I wanted to wear high heels and a briefcase, to be very important.
Yes, of course.
And a white coat.
And to have a clinic room, and I wanted, you know, crystals and all that. But it was about this image. Yeah. And then I did really, really well, and you know, did awesome at college. Graduated as one of the best students. I was in an amazing cohort who are all my best friends still.
Beautiful. Fantastic.
And then I finally got to the briefcase and the high heels and the prestigious clinic, and I walked in and I was so fucking miserable. And I didn't know what to do because I dedicated 5-6 years of my life and slogging my guts out to get there. to this dream. And then when I got to the top of the mountain, I was like looking around going, wait, what is this?
Why am I feeling this way?
Is this it?
Yeah.
And these clients were coming in and I was having really good results and seeing them through the modality of naturopathy and nutrition. But I'm such an in-tune being that I was like, look, I can tell you to eat all the fucking kale and chia seeds you want. But until you talk to your brother about what happened when you were kids, nothing's going to shift. And so I started...
It's starting to come through instinctively.
And I remember there was this one guy, he came in and his mother had just passed away and she'd taken her own life and she was in the room with him.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, yeah, I've put on weight since her funeral. And I was like, oh, okay. And to honour his entry point of where he felt his pain was, but then to help him actually process. And we had this amazing kind of, one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life still, and I helped him see and feel his mother, and they connected, and it was very, very powerful for him, for her, for me. And then he left, and then I had another person come in with irritable bowel, and I was just like, how am I going to combine all of these parts of myself together? Because I'm of the old school way that's becoming vogue again of multi-dimensional healing. It's mind, body, spirit. You cannot do one without the other, and I've seen all of these amazing healers and psychotherapists and psychiatrists and really take people forward, but they're eating shit and they're not exercising and their sleep is terrible. So how are they ever going to be in their true potential if they're not honoring all parts of who they are? And the same, like I've worked with some top athletes and incredible people, and I'm like, your body is your vehicle and we're more than that. And there's a whole, world inside all of us that we need to explore to truly be in our potential. And so for me, it was always like, how am I going to incorporate all of that? And I just kept getting this vision of this healing space, and it was in Bali, and I was like, I just have to build it. And so that's how Bali started. I had $70 when I arrived there. And my husband...
That's so cool.
And my husband, Pat, his uncle has cattle stations out on the Queensland Northern Territory border. So he was actually herding wild goats in a gyrocopter.
Wow.
And like out there, we couldn't even talk or anything. And then at the end of every month, I'd get some money come into my account in Bali, and I'd go buy yoga mats, and I'd go get a juicer, and I'd go buy all these things. And that's how we built it.
Wow. We just had a calling.
It was a big calling. And now, we've won every industry award we've ever entered into. We've been in so many. In terms of recognition and success, we've ticked every single box, and I feel really proud to say that.
No easy feat.
And this real amalgamation of East and West healing as well, because we have the medical side. I mean, my primary vehicle for people to come back to themselves in Bali at the retreat has been to fast through fasting and meditation. And so we run these fasting detox retreats. We just started one here, in Yukai yesterday. And it's just this extraordinary experience of letting go of what no longer serves. And that happens on every single level. People think they're coming to get a bit of a colon cleanse and to have a little liver washout and, just do some yoga. But what they leave with is so much more, because the baggage that we carry, yes, there's a lot of shit in our bodies, like inflammation and toxins and all of that kind of stuff. But it's nothing compared to the amount of baggage we carry within our mental and emotional self.
Well, strip everything back,
Yeah.
and then you're left with that. And then you have to
Yeah.
look at it, don't you, really?
There's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, you can't hide.
It's the true meaning of cellular, isn't it? Like
It
the
is.
cell is
Yeah.
an entity in itself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My first fast that I ever did was in Thailand. I was managing a health retreat over there. And I just remember, because at that self-inquiry of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to show up and be the person I know I'm meant to be? And then I got offered this job in Thailand when I was working on the Gold Coast, and they were like, do you want to come and run a fasting retreat? And I was like, sure.
Yeah.
Like anything to get me the fuck out of here.
Travel culture.
Yeah. I'm like, didn't tell
I
them.
love that.
I actually, in my interview, I said, look, I've never fasted before.
Yeah.
I don't actually know if I agree with fasting. From my naturopathic school of thought at the time, it was like, what about blood sugars? What about protein? What about cellular integrity? And so I now I know a lot more, but at the time I was like, I don't even know if I agree with it. You know, it was literally like everything what not to say in an interview 101. I said it because I wasn't really sure if I wanted the job.
Yeah.
You put it out there.
I
and
was
gave them the
honest.
option.
Yeah. And then the guy, he rung me back, Mel, my boss, and he was like, Kate, you've got the job. And I was like, I think you've rung the wrong person. And he was like, it's Kate Reardon. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, no, it's you. And I'm like, really?
We loved you. So cool.
And the more I delved into fasting and what that can bring about for us, it was just like, this is how I amalgamate it and alchemize all of it and bring it back, because it was such a multi-dimensional practice for me at the time. And it's the only thing that crosses every single religion.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
every, like
true,
Buddha
yeah.
fasted, Muhammad fasted, Jesus fasted, all for spiritual practices to come back to their center, to come back to their truth. So I just had this big like, oh,
Wow.
this is it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how it
So that was
happened.
like an awakening in itself, like another level
Wow.
of awakening along the
Yeah,
path.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, amazing.
yeah,
And you
yes,
embraced it,
Yeah.
yes.
It's
albeit like, do I really want to? Yeah, you're chosen. Get up there, girl.
Yeah, and then
Getting
once
pushed.
I got into it and I knew where my path was headed, I was like, there is no stopping me.
Yeah.
Every roadblock was just like, what else? No. And then I think when you're really on the right path, you start getting all the green lights.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always happen. Like, I don't want to sound like this, you know, old 80s spiritual person of like, just open, you know, your doors of consciousness and you will start, because we know life doesn't happen like that, but life does give us winks.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, this is right.
Yeah.
This is right. This is right. And
And
then
those winks too, just on that too, because
Yeah.
like you said, you know, it's all not just easy flowing
Hmm.
ways. Like those winks can be the door opening to something magnificent.
Yeah.
But in there's still going to be challenges.
Of course.
Yeah, and that's because universe is saying, Kate, come over here. We have this other area we need you to push up against, and you know,
Yeah.
to grow even more into your expansiveness.
That's right.
Yeah.
And a completely different group of people too, like a
completely completely different culture. But I felt like Bali is where I came alive.
Yeah.
I really came alive there. Like, it gave me so much. It was like the biggest apprenticeship in how to be a good human.
Yeah.
Wow,
You
that's
know.
a big one.
Yeah. And she just kept expanding me. Like, she just kept, okay, now you've done what you can on this island, go to
Yes.
Spain, now go to Dubai, now
Yes.
go to Singapore. And I was just getting flown around the world, speaking at keynotes and teaching and sitting with like actual world leaders
Yeah.
who are in control of powerful change. And
Yeah.
I was just
Proud of
like, wow, this is, our potential is ongoing.
Yeah.
And it helped me strive for, not like I want something more, but like, what else could I do?
Well, it's
Oh,
contributing,
so
isn't
beautiful.
it? It's,
Yeah.
and it's that fulfillment of purpose that is so activating.
Yes.
When you tapping into that
Totally.
and you start to feel that energy within yourself
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
realizing, what else can I do?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
is an amazing.
It is,
connection in
you know.
yourself.
And then I thought, because this was all happening before I had children,
Yeah.
I always knew I wanted to be a mum. I knew that would be part of my path, my dharma. And I remember being a little bit scared of like, what's going to happen to my career when I have kids?
Yeah.
Because so much of it was traveling, was meeting new people, was holding big energies, big spaces. And then when I first had my eldest daughter, Ruby, there was so much going on. My husband was diagnosed with cancer when I was 32 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
And so that was a really big initiation. But becoming a mum, and I get so many young girls send me questions about this, like, how do you do it all? I'm like, it's not about doing it all. It's about being who you are.
Yeah.
You know, and what will come for you comes for you.
Yeah.
And now that I've, you know, had my kids and had my whole birthing journeys, I'm like, it only makes me better.
Yeah.
Being a mum has made me so much better in every single way.
Yeah.
You know, especially like getting shit done.
Yeah.
Like, and what I'm capable of. And I know how strong I am now. You know, I don't need to prove myself. I'm like, I just fucking did that.
Yeah.
Like the mama bear's
Yeah.
innately present.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And-
so resonate with that because it's like very subtle.
Yes.
It's like, it's not like, woohoo, you know, I'm
Yeah.
going to tell everybody how great I am. It's like
Yeah.
something within that's
Yeah.
you're fulfilling something that's inside of you. And you're like, I can do that and I can do that. And,
Yeah.
you know, it just keeps...
Yeah.
The more you do, the more you can do. It's a weird thing, but it's like,
It is.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I can feel that.
Yeah. So I feel like, you know, as we keep going, and I hope people listening to this, it's about just being open.
Yeah.
And coming back to those questions, who am I and why am I here?
Yeah.
You know, if we're not asking ourselves that on a regular basis, then we're disconnected to that self-inquiry that leads to the awakening process and keeps us on the path, you know. I think that and for me it's writing and journaling and just like sitting with my hand over my heart and taking good care of myself as well, and giving myself moments where I can listen.
Yeah.
You know, it was really funny. I listened back to interviews I did before I had kids, and they're like, so what's your morning routine? And I'm like, well, I get up and I put a cuppa on, I get on my mat for 90 minutes, and then I'll journal, and then and now I'm like, I usually wake up to the sound of something breaking or a finger in my nose or like a wet bed that I'm lying in.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
My morning routine is literally
anything on any day.
Exactly. But I still always make sure I connect to spirit. And the first thing I do every morning is I put my hands on my heart and I just say, you get another day.
Yeah.
And you are going to have an incredible day.
Yeah.
And you're doing a good job. And that's my morning practice. It's like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't feel as stretched and as limber and as, you know, I haven't made myself a healthy elixir from some rare breed of plant. But I feel as connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that all of us busy women just have to take those moments when we can get them. And you don't have to do all the like quote unquote guru spiritual latest superfood fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
You just need to sit and be with your own heart and ask her what's going on.
And doesn't that take a load off?
Oh my God.
Just,
We've been talking about this, haven't we? We've literally been saying how I'm just noticing how complicated we've made everything.
Yeah.
And how it simply is simple. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's as simple as just doing exactly what you just said, you know, and listening to you talk, I keep getting this picture of a circle, you know, with all these pieces of pie. And I've been getting this kind of vision of like, you know, oneness being in the middle, and then the pieces of pie are all the different experiences that we have. And for you, it's like you've had so many different experiences.
Yeah.
And all of those pieces of pie are for you to be constantly connected to source, you know, all of that, and being a mother and being, you know, at some stages in your life being a guru, like, you know, it's a word, but it's like the true sense of the word, you know, just expanding yourself and being there for others. And it's this, you've you've had your fingers in so many pies, you know, it's like you've had so much experience.
You've had a lot of pie.
I've got a couple of pies, yeah. I remember this, just to reiterate that, I was in India on a holiday with a girlfriend, and it wasn't like a soul-searching holiday because we were a little bit older, and we were laughing on the plane on the way over there. We were like, oh, should we come back as Shakti? Like, are we going to get reborn here? Like, we were kind of taking the piss a little bit. But we stayed in an ashram and did a panchakarma and sat at the feet of gurus and did the whole Indian experience. Beautiful. And then I had to fly from India to meet one of my high-end clients who was staying at a 6-star resort in Thailand, and super famous person. And I remember that morning being in India, and I was like going and giving all of my repair. We went down to the slums, and we were just like giving all of our food and fruit and everything that we had away. And I was like still covered in dirt and with bindi on my forehead. And and then I had to get on a 5-star flight. Sorry, not a 5-star flight. In the pointy end of the plane.
Transition is starting to appear straight away.
And then I arrived at this, incredible, like I've never been in anything like it in my life, hotel. And I was just in shock, and I got to my room, and I was just literally like standing there going, I've just swapped worlds.
Yeah.
And then the phone rings, and they were like, Mrs. Reardon, this is just a courtesy call. We'd love to know what kind of pillow you'd like to sleep on tonight.
Wow.
And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what do you got?
Give me the pillow menu.
And they were like, we've got goose down, we've got chiropractic, we've got duck down, we've got blah, blah, blah. And there was like 30 options, right? And I remember so distinctively being in that moment because all this rage came up because I was like, those pillows alone would feed 100 people in India. This is fuck. This is awful. This is bullshit. I shouldn't be here.
Wow.
Compromise.
Yeah. And just, it didn't sit well with me. And then I remember I was just like literally praying, going, how am I going to, and what came through was like, you need to be in all worlds.
Yeah.
And that's like the strength that you carry.
Yeah.
And so I need to be feeling like I can be in the slums in India and
being in a 6-star hotel.
Being in a 6-star hotel, or, like being in a castle somewhere, or...
Because literally not many people would actually be able to make the transition. Like, a lot of people wouldn't go to the slums.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be putting their hand up for the 6-star resort and they're saying, this is my line here.
Yeah.
Or, to be open to all worlds is quite a skill.
It is, but I think it's a necessity for everyone now, like if you're not consciously aware of what's going on in the world, then you're not showing up as a good human. Like, that's how I see it now. Post-COVID and where we are in this situation, we've got 2 major fucking problems, especially in this country. Big, big, big issues. The first one's climate change, and the second one is mental health. And everything just falls away when you really get to the edge of the truth of what's going on. And people say to me, I can't watch the news, it's so hard. And I'm like, that's bullshit. Because we need to know what's happening so that we can integrate it, so that we can hold it in our bodies, so that we can show up as good humans and do the best we can to help everybody. And I remember about 5 years ago, because I was like, I can't watch the news, it's too much for my nervous system. But I was so dysregulated. I wasn't grounding enough after my sessions and working with clients. I was hearing a lot of trauma, and I wasn't balancing that out with enough joy and play and, stuff like that. And I remember it was about 5 years ago, and I was in this cafe with this girlfriend of mine who's a Black American woman, and she's very sensitive like me. And I said to her, I just can't watch the news. And she looked at me and she went, well, aren't you lucky?
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, she's right. Like, that's privilege to turn away and go, I can't deal with that. Like, that is privilege 101. And I just had this moment in this cafe with her, and I was like, oh my God, you're right. Because she's like, I need to know in my community who's dead.
Wow.
You know, and I see that on the news, and I was just like, holy shit. And so, I mean, in full disclosure, I don't have a television in my home. I don't watch the nightly news, but I keep myself educated and informed about what's going on in the world. I talk to my kids about it. I talk to my friends about it, so that my body gets used to being in all of these different situations, and then it can process. And when I hear bad news, it doesn't wipe me out and I have to sleep for 3 days. It's like, oh my God, that's really big. I need a moment. And then when I've had that moment and come back, I'm like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
And
you know?
so that's like a self-integration as well. But
Yeah.
then there's also that contribution to prayer for, or, you know, however you want to put that, to what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we are all connected.
Totally.
So it's part of that global frequency that you're
I mean,
describing
you
as
look at
well.
what's happening in fucking Iran right now.
Far out.
To the women there, to in America when they Roe versus Wade, like, our human rights are being stripped. And if people are like, oh, I can't watch, I'm like, and you call yourself a spiritual healer or you know, it's like, watch, get informed, do what you can.
Or
even
find the right informant too. Because I don't know whether the news, our news, is the right informant. You
That's
know?
it. And the thing is, with this day and age, we have so much exposure.
Yeah.
And people always say to me, you know, well, how do I know? I'm like, listen to your body.
Yeah.
If someone's talking and it resonates as a yes, you will feel it.
Yes.
And if someone's talking and it's bullshit, we're born with these barometers of truth.
Yeah.
So it's all there. We don't even need to, like, I don't know who to. It's like, get in your body and listen.
Yeah.
It will tell you within seconds.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And so for me, I think going forward, it's kind of like not so much pushing my personal pain aside, but really using that to make me stronger and to really activate me.
Yeah.
And I've had this, you know, this accident that I had and ended up in a wheelchair.
Bandage on foot, people.
Bandage on foot. It's been a year and I haven't been able to exercise. I haven't been able to move my body. It was a really bad accident, but I keep saying, like, wait till I fucking walk again.
Yeah.
This world better watch out, because it's like,
Kate's
it's
on
using
fire.
what we have,
Yeah.
right? And even on those days when I am so tired and I can hardly put one foot in front of the other, it's like, how can I use my tiredness? It's like, I can rest and I can show my girls that it's okay to rest.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
I can rest and I can talk about it on Instagram and make rest normal.
Yes.
You know, it's like there's ways where we can always be in service to the greater good.
Absolutely.
I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's all about that in tune, being in tune,
Yeah.
isn't it? And it's your truth. And then, you know, putting that out there, which then resonates and picks up those people that need to hear that in that moment.
Yeah.
Which is perfect.
Yeah. And I think as well, you know, we are in a different time. And so when people are on a healing journey, it's really going into some of their core wounds and letting go of what no longer serves them. But it really is like, how can I show up and how can I serve?
Yeah.
Because the world needs you alive and pulsing and full of your light, not half dead, half existing and just dragging yourself around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And feeling indulging, because there's lots of aspects to indulging in that.
Yeah.
And using it as an excuse or feeling sorry for yourself for not. NAIDOC, I've been listening to you and I got this t-shirt earlier this year. NAIDOC, their t-shirt this year, their theme is stand up, show up, step up.
Yeah.
Or and it's just such a powerful three phrases, and you can apply it to literally anything in life. And what you're talking about is that exactly, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a real call to action, and it doesn't have to be with all our armor on and all these swords in our hands and fighting. It can be open and loving and from when we're tired, and in this feminine way of like, I'm got all this stuff going on, but I'm going to be the best human I can be today.
Yeah.
And at the end of every day, I haven't done what I thought I was going to do. I'm going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to let myself just know I've done what I could, and that's enough.
For those chronic list makers,
Yes.
thinking of one
That was for
is
you.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the list, that brings, like, mums, we make lists. There's a theme that I'm connecting with here, with the mother. Like, Bali for me is such a heart centre.
Yeah.
And you speak of her as the mother as well. And your daughter Ruby, for me, that's as a gemstone. It's a heart stone and the blood, and also a nobility stone. So we're connecting in with the family lineage that you've spoken about as well.
Yeah.
As a mother, did you find it natural to blend or bring through your professional life and how you cared for people and your beliefs and your healing into your own children, like your own motherhood and their lives?
Well, such a beautiful question. I think I was born up. I was born up, guys.
Wolves.
Yeah. I was born into a really strong role model of what the archetype of the mother is in a healthy form. So my mum she's like my best friend, but she was a real mum, you know. She really showed up for us kids. She listened. Like, I had such a beautiful, healthy, incredible childhood, and she really paved the way of like what mother is. And then my grandmother, on my mother's side, she had 8 children, and so and then, you know, my great grandmother had 11, I think, and it just goes. So that I come from this lineage of like mothers, but for me, it was really about, okay, how am I going to show up as a mother? I didn't have all this wounding about, you know, I had bad mum and I had to work through all that like some people really do.
Yeah.
And when we have, I mean, nothing triggers you more than when you have a child, right? It's like, here's all your unprocessed shit that you need to do. And a baby, good luck. And so
Classic.
that side of things was really clear for me. However, I remember in one of my meditations, something that came through which was really powerful was there's a difference between being a mother and being a mummy.
Yeah.
And it was like, learn to be the mother. And the mother, when we look at it in terms of the archetype, just to put a framework around it, she is the caregiver of everyone in the community, whether she has children or not. You know, it's a rite of passage that we come to as women in our bodies, where we realize how powerful we are, and we realize our strengths, and we understand that we are creators of life.
Yeah.
And so within that is this extraordinary ability to co-create with the divine of how we want to be in this world. And I was really clear about the imprints that I wanted my girls to get from a very young age. Firstly, about like what we were talking about before, it's like their bodies are sacred temples.
Yeah.
You know, and that it doesn't matter what they do in their lives, who they meet, what occupation they choose, who they fall in love with, they are enough.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And so those imprints I was really conscious of, you know, creating from the get-go. They're ones that I felt like I had to fight for and really like, you know, go through some bruises to understand and embody. But what happened is, you know, my eldest is only 7, so I feel like I'm very new at the mother journey.
Yeah.
And when Ruby was born, my book was launched a year later. So she wasn't even 1 when my book came out. And on that kind of press tour, I was doing a lot of interviews and podcasts and things like that. And people were asking me, about motherhood and about like, you know, and what advice do you give? And I felt like saying, I'm 12 months in.
Yeah.
I have no fucking idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I felt like it didn't really click in for me until years later. And I'm still learning. I still don't, like, I'm still like, how the fuck do I do this?
Yeah.
Like looking around for the adult in the room going, wait, is it me? Is it me? Is it my responsibility? And so I think, you know, and then I remember there was this big parenting magazine in New Zealand that wanted to do a feature on me and as a mother with my kids, and I said no, and it would have given me a lot of exposure and helped me reach more people potentially, but I just didn't feel equipped to because I was like, I don't have anything that I can share right now to like, I'm learning, I haven't developed wisdom. And so and people keep asking me all the time, like, you know, when I, before the world shut down, when I was speaking a lot more and out in the world a lot more, like, you know, what advice can you give us for mums? And I'm just really honest with people, and I say, my parenting prayer or mantra is, please don't let me fuck them up too much.
Yeah, I love it.
Like, that's it. Like, I'm gonna do my best, but I'm not gonna put, you know, all this kind of like holier than thou rules and things around it, because I'm still learning and they are my teacher. Yeah. You know, I'm the student here. Oh. And so
that's a bit of gold.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've been, you know what's been coming up for me, and it's so funny that we're having this conversation because we actually had Charlie, my 19-year-old yesterday.
Yeah.
She came and did a podcast.
Oh, amazing.
It was beautiful about her own awakening. Yeah. It was so beautiful. But the one thing that I've been realizing is the label of a mum.
Yes.
The label of a mother.
Yeah.
And how confined that is, and how much expectation is in there. Like, I've been like unraveling that, and I love what you're talking about. I feel like there's so much more available in that. Yeah. Than, you know, as a mum and your role. You know, it's like no, there's really a role, but it's not what you think it is.
Yeah. And like, you know, one of my Balinese healers who's a good friend and became a mentor said to me, your job is not to raise them, your job is to guide them. Yeah. And that just gave me permission. I was just like, oh, because when I don't know something, I really geek out and I try to read and educate myself. Yeah. And I was like ordering all these fucking parenting books on Amazon, and more packages were coming, and Pat was like rolling his eyes going, that better not be another mother-in-law.
Oh, classic.
And just, and I'm like, no, it's fishing or something. But for me, and every woman goes through their own journey, of course, but it's really about, they chose me and I chose them. So whether we like it or not, we've got to figure this shit out. Yeah. And let's just come together, be kind, be open, be honest, and just hold each other's hands and just like get through those weathered storms, because that's like all we can truly ask for, right?
Absolutely.
And so what's happening is my kids, they've started to use my language back to me, which is really fucking hilarious. I know. And so my 5-year-old, when the full moon, the last blood eclipse was on, I always do a ceremony with my kids, and we do a lot of ritual, and I said, I was really angry and I was short with them, and Evie goes, Mum, I know you're feeling a lot of big feelings right now. Why don't you go outside, sit on the earth, take some deep breaths?
Oh my God.
And I was just like, she's right.
Yeah.
You know?
Joy.
And that happens every day.
Yeah.
It just happens every day, you know? And I'm really just conscious of showing them all aspects of me. Like, I'll let them see me be angry.
Absolutely.
Like, I was feral last night at dinner. I was yelling at them.
Yeah.
If the neighbours probably, you know, were just like, there she goes again.
There's that lovely Kate.
I know.
So spiritual.
I know. There's the spiritual guru. 6 o'clock. It's fun times in my house. And then, but when I was putting the kids to bed, I was like, I'm so sorry that I did that. Like, I was yelling at you, and they're like, it's fine, Mum, we understand. But I just want them to know that I'm going through what I'm going through as well.
Yeah.
And I think that
feeling.
our generation of parents didn't show us enough, you know, especially the women.
Yeah.
It was all really, really hidden.
Yeah.
And you know, I can remember like going into Mum's room and she'd been crying and she'd be like,
oh, yes.
Are you okay? Like, wipe the tears away. And they were doing it to try and protect us and hide us. But I'm like, we don't need protecting. We need tools how to integrate and deal with whatever's going to happen to us in our lives, you know? So yeah, I let them see me in all my shades and colours, for sure.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I do too. I don't hold anything back from... And, you know, it's worked for me and it's worked against me.
Yeah.
But it's like, this is who I am, and I don't want to hide that from you, because my mum was my mum.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I didn't see her as a woman.
Yeah.
She was mum.
Mummy.
Yes, mummy. Yeah. And you know, it's not until my dad passed that I actually started to view her as another woman.
Yeah.
And actually start to understand her and want to understand her.
Yes.
And she's literally, I can feel her. She's talking to me differently. And it's incredible. And, you know, everything, not everything, but most things that we've been taught is not the way.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I always say turn it upside down and back the front and then have another look at it, because the way that we've been brought up and the way that we've been told that we should bring our children up is not right.
Yeah.
It's not right.
Yeah.
Like, let's get honest. It's, you know, it's
a rule book.
It's a rule book.
Well, it's outdated. It doesn't meet the needs of our times. And clearly, we're the unhealthiest we've ever been. We've got more mental issues. We've got human crisis happening all over the world. Like, what we're doing is not the right way.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
So
it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
So that's in itself is a massive red light for a change.
Yeah. But I also think as well, like, just going back to you with your mum, Jo, like, what a gift to give her and say, I see you.
Yes.
You know, like,
so beautiful.
it's so beautiful to be met by your child and to fully, like, see each other. Yeah. You know, and I think that that's super powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's and you know, Jarly is constantly putting me in my place, you know, and I listen to her. Yeah. Because, you know, it's these younger...
So wise.
Yes,
they are so wise.
Yeah, I like literally, and I go, you know, where did you get that from? Or where did that come from? It's just something I feel, Mum, and I'm just like, oh, you know, I'm just so grateful that she's got that space to feel that.
Yes.
And the love.
And the love, to be able
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I that happens to me a lot too. And I kept getting shocked, and then I'm like, why am I getting shocked? These are extraordinary beings.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing them as little people that don't know anything.
Yeah.
And so it works both ways.
Yeah.
It's like I've got to really hold these beings as these full powerhouses that they are.
Yeah.
Not like a 5-year-old that's learning to read.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's like, you know, talking about Girl Awakening.
Yeah.
That's how it... It's you know, even from where you started from, like, you know, talking about the whole awakening is such a word that's thrown around. Yeah. And just listening to you, like really listening to you and what you're saying, it's like that's just the way it should be. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I get what you're saying when we're just living life and we're learning and we're going through, and whether that's an awakening, awareness, whatever it looks like, consciousness, I don't know. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. Yeah. As long as you're still in the space of learning.
That's right.
And being open.
And being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
You know? And I think because people will always say, like, you know your purpose, you're here, you're on your life purpose. I'm like, your life purpose isn't what you do.
Yeah.
It's not your job.
Yeah.
It's been sold to us in coaching packages that we spend thousands of dollars, and we've bought the poison that our purpose is what we do in the world.
Yeah.
Our purpose is who we are.
Yeah.
And the more we can be who we are, you know, the more Amanda you are, the more Joe you are, the more Kate I am.
Yeah.
That's our purpose.
Yeah.
It's to be fully alive, present, loving, kind human beings. And so there's so many vehicles to get there. There's so many avenues. I mean, I work through the health and wellness space because I believe that that's one way to get there. You could get there through art or cook yourself into, you know, this like realization of truth and who you are. There's no one way and there's no right way.
No.
But it's about becoming all that you came here to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also that can change.
It changes
in a
all
heartbeat.
the time.
Yeah. And I'm finding just personally, it's happening so quickly at the moment for me. Like it's like as soon as I want to kind of grab hold of something, it's like, whew,
yes.
no, you know, just keep moving, just keep listening, keep being open.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't even kind of
quantify it too much.
Yeah. These days.
Yeah. Yeah. It's moment by moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Because two things, like, so just when our children were born, we used Australian bushflower essences, drops for their little heads and on their little tongues, and one of them was boab, which has
I know
property
boab.
of connecting to your ancestry, your lineage, but not bringing through the
cutting
baggage,
the karmic ties.
And gee, it's powerful.
We have a bottle of boab on hand in my house at all times.
Wow.
Children as teachers is like, when you said that, I was like, oh, flashback, because they have such an incredible purity in the way that they are our teachers.
Yes, they do. And it's so, like, my little one, Frankie, she's just so full of joy.
Yeah.
And I can't, like, even reprimand her because I'll go, Frankie, that is not funny. And she'll go, it's a little bit funny.
Oh, it sounds like Hugo and Austin. They say that all the time. It's a little bit, mummy.
I know.
It's a little bit, Ninny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
maybe.
you just can't, and it just, like, it just breaks your heart open, and then you forget what you're angry about.
Yeah.
You know, but I think as humans, like older, more fucked up humans, we attach to those emotions, whereas they don't.
No.
You know? And I always say to people, like, if you want to learn how to process your emotions, hang out with toddlers.
Absolutely.
Because they will kick and they will scream and they will rage, and then they'll full cycle back. The stress response will make its full circular way back into equilibrium within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But we get stuck in the rage or the anger or the, you know, whatever. And so when my kids have tantrums, I just let them, I was like,
Run it
okay,
out.
see you in a couple of minutes and just leave the room. And they ride it out, you know, but
for themselves, rather than, you know, that learning that performing this tantrum gets results because people panic to stop it, or so it's not, you know, my child is not really naughty, or
that's right. Well, I think that just our generation anyway is just, we're not okay with hard emotion in any way, whether it's being felt or expressed in someone else. We don't know what to do because we were never given the skills.
Yeah.
So any kind of like unease or, you know, like an anger or rage or jealousy, we're all like you just go into that freeze because you're like, I don't know how to deal with this. Whereas they don't label it. They're just like, this is what I'm feeling right now. It's really, and then it's like, I'm tired, I need a nap. Yeah. Which is how we should be dealing with it. Like
that was exhausting,
but that's our innate ability. Yeah. You know. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, before we sign off, I just wanted to go for it. Yeah.
Well, so my daughter, when I'm in the full flight of like trying to get a lesson across and be serious and reprimand or whatever, we'll just start this little you know, little smile, smirk. And I'm she's laughing at me. She thinks this is funny, and then I'll try to be a bit more serious, and I just go, it's actually not that important. Yeah, you know? She's like, her humour and that moment of seriousness, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
The way that children are able to be
I
right
know.
around.
With the love in, where the love's in there, you know, it's like you can feel it. It just doesn't waver with them. It's like that connection's just always there.
You're young now when you're trying to be serious.
Yes.
Yeah. So your books, because we've spoken about, or you've shared it a couple of times, like your daughter was just born when your book came out, and you're in the middle of writing another book. Like, how is that like a process for you that's like cathartic, or like what are your books about? Is it sharing your knowledge in the health and wellness, or metaphysical?
My first book, The Essential Cleanse, it's a guidebook to do a mind, body, spirit cleanse at home.
I have that book.
Yeah,
it's actually in my bedside table.
Yay!
I thought you had it, but you can.
I do have it, but I will gift it to my daughter.
So
She's going away. Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You have to sign it for us.
So I will.
Thank you.
Gorgeous book.
Yeah, this book was written because everyone kept saying to me, "You need to write a book.
Yeah.
We want you in our lounge room. We want you, not everyone can come to Bali and do a retreat and sit with me." And so it was a way of taking some of the wisdom and my expertise as a naturopath and a nutritionist and a healer, and giving people a roadmap to go on a journey for themselves. The thought of writing a quote-unquote self-help book right now makes me want to vomit. And so I'm not, like, everyone's like, what's your next book about? I'm like, it's not going to be what everyone thinks. I don't really have a clear structure of what's happening.
Which is perfect.
Yeah. But what I'm writing about a lot is miscarriage. Because when I was going through mine, that there was no stories passed down, no nothing that I could sit with another woman and be like, oh, you too?
Yeah.
In that raw, brutal opening and shame and, all of that. And I remember my first miscarriage, which I do write about in this book, was really intense. I won't go into it now, but read the book. But
will be.
But I remember I was in Bali and I flew back to Australia, and I landed in Australia and in Brisbane, and I was like, I need to go see my grandmother who lived in Tamworth, which is like a 9-hour drive from Brisbane. And it was my dad's mum who had all boys. And so when we were growing up, she wasn't a real soft and nurturing grandmother because she was like a boy mum.
Yeah.
And I just wanted her, which was so weird because I was like, why her? And I went to my grandparents' house, and I remember, and I sat down on the bed where she made me up with my little tea and, real grandma's house. Yeah. And I said, I lost a baby. And I just burst into tears, and she hugged me and she said, me too. And I was the first person she'd ever told.
No way.
And she was 90. And well, no, she would have, 87 or something then. She hadn't even told my grandfather because she was that ashamed. And
big secret.
it was such a big thing. And so what's coming out is like a lot of my experiences told through like really brutal or honest storytelling. And so that we can be more in our bodies as women, but also celebrate even those moments,
Yeah.
Yes. There's a lot to celebrate.
Yeah. Because I remember just getting on Instagram and seeing a gender reveal and this and that and Mother's Day, and I was just so awful, and no one was talking about miscarriage or stillborns, or there were little communities and hubs of people that had gone through that, and they had a a trauma bond and a pain connection. But I couldn't find, like, I was just where's
your place?
Yeah. So it feels good to be writing about that.
It's so beautiful and so needed. I mean, I was really lucky to not go through that, but I think I'm like, an odd one. So many women go through it. And it's not until you actually start communicating and talking about it that you realise how many women.
Yeah, or just the fertility in general.
Yeah.
You know, how many women have to go through IVF, years of trying. Like, it's such a stigma still.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like it's through sharing our stories that it is going to allow us to heal.
Yeah,
through
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. So I feel
Thank
like
you.
even asking a question after that is
that.
just so silly.
Well, I mean, it resonates so much. My auntie was in my family too, similar thing. She miscarried, had one child of her own and miscarried. I think that's in the right order, and then adopted 2 children because she wasn't able to conceive. But I think it's like 50-something years later, she still mourns that miscarried child and visited its grave recently. She actually, has a place of burial for it.
That's beautiful.
And it doesn't go away.
It never goes away, because I remember someone said to me, when you finally hold your baby in your arms, all this pain will go away.
Yes.
And I remember when I first held Ruby in my arms, I was like, the pain's still here.
Yeah.
And I have to give it a home, and I have to put flowers on it and tend to it, because it's an experience that I went through, and it's not, it's like what we all think of when I lose the weight, or when I get the guy, or when I snag the job, everything will be better. And and it's definitely been a journey of healing, but it's also been a journey of not being ashamed anymore.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, my
That's
pleasure.
really beautiful.
Yeah.
I have one question, and I think it's probably perfect for where we've just walked. But do you see anyone now, or have anyone that supports you in your journey, with where you're at now?
Yeah, I always have a solid support team around me. Not so much like...
Does it shift and change?
It shifts and changes all the time. And I think you naturally outgrow people as well.
Yeah.
Recently, a lady, this beautiful, beautiful woman that I've worked with for years in Denmark, she was like, I need a session with you. And I'm like, no, you don't. We can have a conversation.
Yeah.
I can be there for you, but you don't need me right now.
Yeah.
And that was my way to empower her.
Yeah.
And so when I was working a lot more out in the world, a lot more traveling, and also kind of at the forefront of, part of our mission for Natural Instinct Wellbeing has always been to give back.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm most proud about, like after, creating this beautiful sanctuary, was how much, like tens of thousands of dollars we've been able to give back to the community, and to charities and NGOs and places that we feel. And so I can get really I'm still learning how to really manage my energy levels in term, because I'd finish a 12-hour day of teaching and hosting and my podcast and all of that, which is when you're very on, it's a lot of energy. And then I'd go and sit at where, some place and talk to them, and then my auntie rings up and she's got sciatica again. And so I always had people around me that helped me stay in the best condition that I could to be able to show up to what I wanted to. And so that looked like a body worker, like acupuncture or an osteo, always someone for my mental health, and then a lot of like spiritual healers as well. Doing, energy clearings and moving things through my body. I always try and have someone that can see, not that can see what I can't see, but that can just hold a clear mirror for me, and just to be like, come on, Kate. Like, this is like those little nudges forward when I get stuck. The body piece is always a huge thing for me. Like, even though I am a naturopath, I go and see a naturopath. So I'm on a protocol, and I know what I'm doing for my body and my mental health as well. And it just shifts and changes. Like sometimes I'll need more cushioning, and then I could go, 6 months, a year without seeing anyone.
Yeah.
And it just like kind of like depends on what I'm going through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I suppose probably like us too, your podcast, I mean, you get so much, not that they're there to support you, but you get so much out of just communicating with other people about where you're at and what's going on. And,
yeah.
Which we're loving as
Absolutely
well.
lovely.
Yeah.
And seeing having a care team is a true honouring of the potential of what you're here to share.
Yeah.
Giving back, isn't it?
Yes.
And filling your cup and making sure that is constantly a resource that you can draw from.
Yeah. Because I've run myself into the ground that many times that I feel like if I did it again, I would actually die.
Yeah.
Because
you do it well.
when I take myself out, I'm proud to say I do a very good job. And even like this accident, and I'm sitting there in a wheelchair just going, what? And again, it was just like, you need to learn to walk in a new way. And I'm literally learning to walk in a new way. And so when it really hit me was I don't take care of, I can take care of myself for me, of course.
Yeah.
But I need to take care of myself so that I can change and shift and heal the world and do what I need to do.
Yes.
Because for me, it always felt, and there's again, our particular generation, self-care is bad, selfish, XYZ, you know, all those stories. I was like, well, if I can't do it for me, then who can I do it for? And that just like really changed everything. So, like when I go and teach a retreat now, I will make sure that I've got lots of buffering time around me, go and see a body worker, really ground in, clean up my diet, get off the booze and all that kind of stuff, and just really show up. And then when I'm not as hard in that, I can watch Netflix and drink a bottle of wine and have some pizza and just be like, ooh, this is nice too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about the balance.
It's the flow between them, isn't it? And one of the things that I've embraced in myself recently is honouring what it is that you want to give by actually creating those buffers.
Yeah.
Because you're taking it seriously, and not in that it's all like, you have to be serious, but it's the joy of what it is all about comes from being in it for yourself as much as it is for the other people. Oh, totally. I know. Yeah. Like when someone comes to me for healing, because I hate calling myself a healer because
you so are, darling. Sorry.
I know, but you're the one that's doing the work. I'm the one that gets to witness your extraordinary essence and just to help hold you and tell you the things that you've forgotten.
Yeah.
Like that's my role, you know? And, but when people are like, oh, thank you so much. And I'm like, thank you.
Wow.
Like, do you know how amazing that was that I got to do that? And I think that, just sharing from what you're saying, it's like following that joy is the way. It is the awakening. And if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like that's my rule of thumb since I became 40. Now I'm an old wise adult, fully grown adult with my shit well and truly together. But turning 40 and, just doing those self-excavation and redirection and lots of journaling as you do when you hit some of those big milestones, I was like, if it's not fun and it's not simple, it's a no. Yeah. For work things. Yeah. And so, when I got your email, I was like, oh my God, that's so fun. That is going to be amazing. Oh, that's true. And because if it's not fun, like,
why would I?
I really love that. That's a great,
because fun can be hard stuff too. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's going to be heavy, and that's person's going through a lot of trauma, and but that's going to be fun too, because imagine them on the other side.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's a really beautiful place to end.
Yeah. All Kate's information will be in the comments.
I was going to say, everything that you need to know about our beautiful Kate is on katereardon.com.au.
Yes.
So bookings, retreats, books, everything.
Yeah.
And I will also link that at the bottom of this podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me, inviting me into this beautiful space.
Yeah, it's
Absolute
been
joy.
our honour. Absolute joy.
Yes,
Yes.
more joy, please.
For listening to our Girl Awakening podcast. We will see you next week with a new guest, and we look forward to sharing with you an awakening. There's a link in our show notes for info regarding our guest, and a special blissful thank you to Ksenia Luki, the amazing artist behind our theme song. We will see you next week. Bye.
I talk to a spirit. She comes in my dreams. She teaches me lessons, and boy does she sing. Her voice sways like a hummingbird, flies like a shooting star. She whispers, you were never born, so you will never die.